Hey guys, it's Sheila here, and I have a very special announcement. Since I got my pink fuzzy slippers last week from my producer, Tim, I have just been loving them. I decided that I wanted to run a very special contest. It's called the Fuzzy Slippers Contest. Listen back to episode 2. I said this was one of my favorite memories when my grandfather brought me to Woolworth's downtown Aurora, Illinois, and bought me a pair of pink fuzzy slippers. So this was one of my favorite memories. What's one of your favorite memories? Take a picture of it, put it on Instagram, hashtag fuzzy slippers, or put it on our Facebook page, Sound Mind Body Podcast on Facebook. And whoever gets the most likes, we're going to send you your own pair of pink fuzzy slippers. Who doesn't want a pair of pink fuzzy slippers? Let me tell you, they're the most comfortable things you have ever worn in your life. So get out there, give us your fuzzy slipper stories, and hashtag fuzzy slippers. May the best one win. Hello, and welcome to Sound Mind and Body, a podcast where we talk about how to stay healthy, balanced, and well of mind, body, and spirit in today's crazy world with a dash of woo-woo. I'm your host, Sheila Melody, and today we're talking to another member of the band, No Small Children. You'll remember I interviewed my good friend Lisa P back on episode 8, and if you listen to that episode, I think you'll agree that Lisa is a pretty amazing person. And today I'm talking to Nicola Berlinsky, who is the drummer in No Small Children and also an elementary school teacher. But that is only the tip of the iceberg about this amazing woman. Welcome, Nicola.
Thank you, Sheila. It's wonderful to be here.
So when we talked about having you come on the podcast, I was like, well, give me some talking points and, let's see what, we'll talk about you being, your education degrees and the things that you're doing with the band. And then you sent me these points and I was like, holy moly, this woman is like way more deep and awesome than I ever knew. And I've known you for years. So let's just start from the point of being a teacher, because that is a huge part of your life. You've been a teacher for like 26 years. So how did you become a teacher?
I grew up not knowing what I wanted to be. I thought I was going to be a doctor. I spent my 13th year this summer volunteering in the OR, prepping medical trays, and realized the smell of burning bone didn't sit well for me because I would watch open heart surgery and all the rest. But
my God.
I really admire that profession. So then I didn't worry about it. And in college, I went to Bennington College in Vermont, and I was drawn to the music department. I'd studied drums in high school and elementary, and I just found music to be my way into being curious about everything around me, and it made sense. And the thing that's unique to this college is that every winter it asks all of its students to go and get real-world experience for 2 months. So everyone would leave the campus for January and February and enter the work world. And without even putting the pieces together, I was constantly going for teaching jobs. So I had my first teaching internship at 18 in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. They have advertised room and board, which meant that when I got there, I had to clean out a storeroom. And lived in the school. And I
what?
Yeah. And I would be in this school in the middle of the night when no one was there. And
oh my God, that must have been creepy.
It was really creepy. One of the doors to the bedroom was a garage door, and raccoons would come and scrape on it at night.
Oh my gosh.
But when you're 18, it all is a big adventure, especially being in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I loved every minute of it, but I didn't think more about it. And at the end of it, someone sat me down and said, I really want you to think about this as a career path. And I never thought about it the rest of the year. And I went back to school for music and was just in the moment in the jazz department and writing modern chamber music and loving it. But every year, up until my senior year, I was teaching music in Seattle, training with a wonderful music teacher and loving every minute of it, but didn't think twice about it. And when I went back to school, my older sister just told me on the phone, she said, "It's so great you're doing music. Just think about something practical that you may want to have just to bring money while you're studying.
As our loved ones always do.
They do. And it just happened that our school had a 5-year program. So for students who were studying to be teachers in the education department, which I wasn't, they had an agreement with a wonderful school of education in New York City called Bank Street College. And they were taking their freshmen, the 18-year-olds there, to see if they would like to be part of this 5-year program that would let them graduate with an under and master's degree in 5 years. So I went on a bus from Vermont to New York City with all these freshmen, and I was 20 at the time. And I stepped into this building, and I felt like I was home.
Oh.
Everything about it felt right to me, that I just knew I had to be there. And I met someone there that day, had an interview, filled out the application, and 2 weeks later, I was entered into a master's program. So when I graduated at 21, I went straight to New York City, then was studying full-time, was a student teacher, and by 22, I was writing my thesis year and had my first 3rd grade class.
Oh, wow.
I was closer to the students' age than their parents' age, and realized the weight of the responsibility I was now in, and just loved them to pieces. I made up for my lack of experience with just love.
Wow.
And so I taught in New York for 3 years, and then in San Francisco for 7, and I've been in Los Angeles teaching for another 16, all elementary school.
Wow. So it's all around 3rd grade or 3rd through 6th or what?
3rd and 4th grade as homeroom teachers, and then have just done so many different things as part of being on a school. So being part of the board of trustees and creating programs and cross-curricular in different ages. But a few years ago, I went back to school and got a second master's in educational leadership at Columbia.
Wow.
Because I'm starting to reflect on the back end of my career, and I'm actually going to be transitioning to hopefully a position in leadership. I turned down an assistant principal job 2 years.
Oh.
Because every time I thought of stepping away from the classroom, I'd break out into tears
at
the dinner table with my husband. But I'm actually on a half-a-year sabbatical right now, writing curriculum, and part of that was just to take a pause.
Yeah.
Because I've never not worked and taught in my adult life.
Wow.
And I just needed to go inward and spend a lot of time alone and reflect on what I really needed to do, and I'm really ready to take on a different role in education. So I'm starting to put that process together.
You're just at the end of that sabbatical, right?
Yep, 1 more month to go.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So has it been what you thought it would be, or were you surprised by anything that happened during this time?
It's been incredible. You know, every day when I drive to work, one thing I'd notice is there would be people out walking. And I'm driving to work and thinking, who are all these people who get to go for a walk in the morning?
Yeah, really.
And sure enough, that's the first thing I do every morning. I live by the hills, and I go into the hills every single morning. And it's great. A beautiful way to start the day before sitting down and writing.
And then you're writing. What are you writing?
So over the last 15 years, I've developed a program where I have my students write an original play about a moment in California's history centered around change. And the change is usually when the dominant culture that holds the power is being challenged. So, for example,
right now.
Yeah. Right now will definitely be staged. And I'm sure there are many movies being written right now. And there are lots of books out. But for example, the forced deportation of Mexican Americans during the Depression is an example of one.
I never even knew that.
Yeah, 1.2 people of Mexican heritage, many of them American-born, were rounded up and put on trains and forced back to Mexico because they were scapegoated for the cause of the Depression.
It's almost like now.
Right, which is one of the reasons why I chose it. So every year I choose a topic that has resonance into what's happening in our current climate, so that it gives the students an historical perspective of why things they are. So last year, we staged a huge case that went to the Supreme Court in 19 2019, where a woman in California was accused of the Syndicalism Act, which is treason, for just speaking out her mind.
Really?
So it really became one of the first cases that started to limit free speech.
And you had mentioned that you...
So I'm writing a book on how to... Because people want me to publish these plays, but I'd much rather teach other teachers how to write these plays with their students and stage it.
So, right. Wow. So you're writing a book on how to do that.
Step by step on how to choose a topic and create the study for the students.
Oh my gosh, that's going to be a legacy.
I don't know, but it's been amazing to go and really deconstruct the process.
Uh-huh. And you just created it on your own. You just were doing it.
I did. Yeah.
How wonderful. And you mentioned to me that you were born in America, but your family went back to South Africa, is that where your parents are from?
Yes, they were both born in South Africa. Both of their families were Jews who were exiled out of Lithuania. Oh. And instead of making it to America, like most did at the turn of the century, for various reasons, their family ended up in South Africa. And they were born and started questioning why elders were treated so unfairly. Mm-hmm. So how non-whites were being treated didn't square with the ethical culture and their Jewish tradition. And only after they met each other did they have the courage to start thinking, maybe we should leave all of our family behind because we cannot support apartheid.
Right. And so that is ingrained in your
it is.
In your being, and you seem to be carrying that on and teaching the kids that you're involved with to look at history and to know that, things have happened before, but there's a way to create change too.
There is, and there's a long history of why things are the way they are, and it will take a lot of collective consciousness to make change.
Right. That's so powerful. So let's get to your musical career, because you got, your degrees and you were into music in the beginning, and then you became a teacher. You're doing your teaching career. And how did the band get started? How did No Small Children get started? And why the name? How did you come up with that name?
It's just been a joy to be part of this band. But honestly, I stopped playing music for about 20 years. When I went to graduate school for teaching, I also was stepping away from music, which at the time felt like something I wasn't quite fulfilling. I wasn't quite understanding how to be the musician I wanted to be. And as a drummer, I also didn't see anyone like me. Mm-hmm. And when I went to New York, it was very macho. I played in a few bands, but as a young female, not having any role models around, I didn't quite know how to deal with the negative energy that was coming my way. And yet I was receiving so much positivity from my experience in the teaching world. And I just set it aside and didn't think about it. And then something happened, which I'll circle back to what happened. But at 40, I realized that it was time to start playing. And my neighbor across the street one day said to me, "Oh, I used to play guitar." And I looked at him and I said, "I used to play drums." And he said, "Do you want to try playing?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And we went to Amp Studios. And he just happened to be the right, gentle, patient person who got me to take that first step back into playing music again. And he, along with his brother, I used to play with two brothers. Now I play with two sisters. And I met every...
Keep it all in the family.
That's right. We met every week for 3 years and just had the most fun in the room playing music.
Cool.
But I would say to them, "Let's go on tour. Let's play out." And they would say, "No, we're not ready."
After 3 years.
And then Lisa said, "Why don't you come and play this show with me? I have my band, Lisa Parade." And she had us play our first show together, and we played with her. And then
where was that?
That was at the Guitar Merchant, where
I was probably there.
You were probably there.
Oh, yes, I was there.
And then she said, I like the vibe of your band. I'm having a party. Will you guys be the house band at our party? So then we played at her party. That was our second show.
Okay.
So Lisa, who is a guitarist in our band and who's on this podcast, was really a supportive friend. Now, we had actually already worked together for about 10 or 11 years. We started at
both being teachers.
Right. We started actually on the same date at our school. We were
You
hired at the
did?
exact same time.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh! Wow,
And
that's sometimes there's something about that. I feel like there's just synchronicity of the people you're supposed to meet.
Right?
You somehow come together
Yeah.
at the right times.
So the catalyst for starting music again at 40 cuts to the story of why our name is called what it is. So I'll jump to that.
Okay.
So I've been with my husband for a long time. We're 18 years married, 23 plus together. And at 35, we realized, maybe it's time to start a family. Of course, all the medical history says, okay, it's 35 is getting late now, so we better start trying. And we weren't trying not to have a child for a while, and then we were actively trying to have a child, and nothing was happening. And given my age at 36, we started going to try to understand why this wasn't just happening. So naturally, all my friends around me, after a month or two, were
getting pregnant.
And there were lots of babies around, and it just wasn't making sense. I thought I'd always been very clever not to get pregnant before. That was a point of pride, actually. And strategic.
You're like, wait a minute. Strategic.
And through much testing and then genetic counseling, we realized it was almost impossible from Eastern European genetic mutations for us to have a child. And so
Really?
Yeah. And I just want to preface this by saying each person's decisions around fertility and how to have children is their own personal choice. And I'm just going to talk from my personal choice.
Right.
Because I'm not bringing in any morality into other people's decision for what I'm about to say. What we learned was that all of the fertility treatment that people engage in right now had a very, very low chance for us. And if it was to be successful, there would be a high rate that the child wouldn't survive. And if they did survive, they would be severely disabled.
Oh, my goodness.
My husband had a brother born a year after him with very severe cerebral palsy and a brain shunt. And he grew up being a caregiver to his brother, which is why he is such a wonderful man.
He is a wonderful man.
And my sister, my older sister, who I spoke about earlier, developed multiple sclerosis. And at the time that we were receiving this news, her health was declining rapidly. She's now completely disabled, trapped in her body. Her mind works, but her legs, hands, and feet don't work.
Oh, my goodness.
And she had 2 small children. And at the time, we realized that if we were to have a child, the first thing we'd want to do is be there for our family. And if her family needed us, that was going to be our first priority. So while we decided not to do any of the fertility treatment just because we knew how hard it would be to raise a child with such a severe disability.
Right.
And, our siblings with their disabilities have taught us so much, and so we really value what that's done for our lives. But instead of doing that, we thought first we'd be there if my sister's family would need us.
Right.
And then after we realized and helped those children grow, on the sidelines, she and her husband are their parents, but it's a family of support.
Yes.
Then we check in with each other every 6 months to see, are we happy or do we want to adopt a child?
Right.
And in the process, we learned that we're very happy and we're okay.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that I went through a deep mourning period. It's funny to mourn an idea of something and to let it go. And for about 3 years, I would cry at the drop of a hat.
You're making me cry.
And it was really sad. And I'd spent a lot of time alone mourning that. And then I turned 40 and I felt absolutely free because society had been telling me I'm so old, I'm too old, you waited too long.
Yeah.
Everything, you're so old. And then I was spending all this time with my sister who was so disabled and realized I am totally capable of fulfilling this life. But at 40, don't wait. Do it. Just do it. What do you want to do? And so one of the things I realized I wanted to do was play music again.
Oh.
And so I was playing with these gentlemen, and we were having a great time. And then Lisa and I were on recess duty at school watching the children one day. And it happened to be the Friday before Mother's Day at a school, which even though I was okay at this point, around 43, I'd had a couple triggers that made me sad.
Yeah.
Halloween was one, because that would be such a lovely thing to do with kids. And the Mother's Day was the second.
Yeah.
I still don't actually go to baby showers. I just take myself out.
Really? Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm so much better than I was. So I don't have those triggers anymore. But at the time, I was feeling really low. And Lisa and I were talking, and she understood how I felt.
Yeah.
And she was such a reassuring, comforting ear. And we said, instead of taking this feeling and being sad, let's go play music together. She had supported me so much. She's a lifelong musician.
Yes.
She's let's do our own thing. Let's turn this feeling into something else. And the name for me, No Small Children, represents the social relevance of women with or without children.
Wow.
And so that's what it meant to me.
Yeah.
One of the things about giving up the idea of having children is that you start to see signs everywhere in the society. Like in children's nursery rhymes, the wicked old crone is barren.
Uh-huh. Yes, right. Exactly.
You're right. And,
oh my God.
And so I decided I just needed something to take that off the table and feel strong and capable and present. And so for me, that name means that empowerment.
Women.
And that's it. But we also like to joke that it is a time for adults and to give so much to our students that it's okay to nourish and give ourselves back something.
Yeah, with no small children
That's
around
right.
that you have to worry about.
That's it.
So we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about an injury that you had, because you're a very active person, and one of your latest accomplishments. On the next episode of Sound, Mind, and Body, we talk to acclaimed success and business mindset coach, Barbara Doust.
And so a C-type goal is a goal that you really don't know how to get. And it's something that scares you and excites you at the same time. And so when you arrive at that, the ideal, your ideal goal, and when you make a decision to be committed, it has to be a committed decision. Because as soon as you make it and you decide that you're going for it, immediately, bam, fear, doubt, worry, anxiety, everything is going to kick in to stop you.
That is so true.
Right, from having that dream, that goal.
That's next week on Sound, Mind, and Body.
Hey, it's Tim Edwards, founder of the Inbound Podcasting Network and producer of Sound, Mind, and Body. If you're a regular listener of the podcast, you know that Sheila asks all of her guests how they stay of sound, mind, and body. Well, in part, my answer is my once-a-week high-intensity workout at Sheila's strength training studio, Inform Fitness in Toluca Lake. That's right, I said once a week, and here's the best part. It's only for about 20 to 30 minutes. However, it's not an easy-peasy half an hour, that's for sure. The workout is pretty intense, but it's extremely safe because my trainer Joe is guiding me the entire time. All of the movements are in slow motion and are in perfect form, hence the name, Inform Fitness. The workout's also quite effective. At the time of this recording, I'm 50 years old, and at my age, I should be getting weaker, but I'm not. I'm getting stronger every single week. You'll hear Sheila say several times here in the podcast that strength care is health care. Check it out for yourself. There's a free session waiting for you at informfitness.com. Click the button Try Us Free right there on the homepage. Fill out the form and enjoy a slow-motion, high-intensity, full-body workout in just 20 minutes. On the website, you'll also see that this offer applies to all Inform Fitness locations across the country. For a list of those locations, Tons of videos and information regarding the Power of 10 workout. Visit informfitness.com.
So we're back and we're talking to Nicola, the drummer of No Small Children, and quite an accomplished woman in her own right. And so, Nicola, let's talk about you. You're a really active person, and you had an injury a few years ago. What happened, and how was that healing process?
I did. Yes, I am very active. I was really active as a child, and I haven't stopped. My grandmother and mother and I all have the same inclination to hurt our backs.
Oh,
and
really?
Since I was younger, I had strained my back, and then I had herniated a disc, which takes a little time to get over. But when I was 43, I was just getting ready for work one day and putting on my socks, and I knew something different had happened.
Oh, dear.
And what had happened, it took a little time to figure out, was that I'd slipped a disc. But what happened in that initial moment is that my body seized up around the injury so intensely that my psoas muscles clamped down, and my ability to move my legs went offline.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just in extreme pain. And so the weird thing was that I only took about a week and a half off, even though I needed help with everything.
Believe that.
And I got one of those walkers that has a seat in it.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, and it's so strange because I couldn't dress myself, and I just couldn't do anything. But I don't know why I didn't take work off. I think it was because we were in the middle of doing the play that I had talked about earlier, and I was so passionate about the topic. It just seemed impossible to let it go, which is something I've learned. So I just want to say that I've learned to heal, take time off. So it took about 3 months before I could walk again. I would be lying in bed and I couldn't roll over and I couldn't get out of bed. And I really gauge all physical pain in relationship to the pain I felt then at that time.
Wow.
But what happened was spring break came, and my husband and I were supposed to go to Vietnam on this whirlwind adventure.
Wow.
But instead he drove to Sedona, and there are all those vortexes there and hiking. And I couldn't get out of the car and walk the steps to the hotel when we arrived there. And each day we would visit one. And the first day we were there, I was able to pull myself along about half a mile. Mm-hmm. And then by the third day, we were driving to one, and something in my inner voice said to me, like I literally heard a voice say, "You're going to be okay. You're okay now." And we hiked about 4 miles that day.
Wow. So and there is definitely, it's something that's in the earth. There's like that copper, it's like a magnetic something, I think. And there really is something in that area.
That area is amazing. And also I let myself truly relax. But what happened was I thought, oh my goodness, I'm healing myself. And I went back to running 6 miles a day about 4 or 5 months later, and I was going, and almost a year to the date, I was picking up a chair in the classroom, and I pivoted and collapsed, and the school had to go on a soft lockdown. The ambulance came, took me to the hospital, and I did the exact same thing.
Oh, no.
This time, though, I found an incredible chiropractor who I worked with, and he unlocked all the muscles around my back quickly over a course of 3 weeks, just by very, very intuitive body work, but slowly. The injury had to go down.
Yeah.
So what I learned was this is not an injury that goes away. It has to be managed for the rest of my life. I don't run anymore. I hike and swim, and there are lots and lots of warning signs to back injuries. So one is all about stress management. Mm-hmm. The reason why it happened a year to the date was no accident. It's a confluence of things that I do by the beginning of February that have to be done in a different way to live a balanced life. I learned that.
Okay.
And two is there are warning signs like tingling down the leg or shin splints or all kinds of things that your body tells you are out of alignment. And it's really important to listen to that and to listen for when it's time to rest. So it wasn't in healing the first time that I learned that. It was in healing the second time.
And so if somebody's feeling those things, you just recommend they rest, or do you recommend they go to a chiropractor and kind of, do a little therapy, or you just go get a massage?
Sort of yes to all of the above. If they've never had a back injury before, let's say, and they're starting to feel differently, I think it's good to take a hot bath.
Yeah.
And breathe and just think, what's going on? Am I stressed right now? Am I getting enough sleep? Did I do something that have an actual impact on my hard impact on my body? And then ice is good to take down any inflammation in an area and rest. And just, we don't have to go all the time. Rest is so important.
Yes.
And then if it continues and something feels worse, then I would say ask friends who they really trust, because there's a range of body workers out there, and recommendations are key.
Right.
So massage therapy is a great first step. But if it's truly something that's hurting, there are so many people out there who have experienced severe back injuries. Start talking to friends, and there's no shortage of advice.
That is true. I know from working at my strength training studio, we encounter that all the time. And, we work very slowly and carefully with people. And so that they usually come to us after they've been through therapy, physical therapy, and they're on the road to recovery and getting back into exercising, and then they can come to us. But yeah, we're super, super careful with that. And, it is all those little things but you never had any surgery?
No, I
thank goodness, though.
I'm trying to go through my life without having back surgery or taking any pain medication, because the pain informs us. The pain tells us what's wrong.
That is
and we have
true.
To listen to it. It can be an aid to what's going on in our bodies.
That is so true, but man, that's hard.
It's hard, but ice is really good, and scalding hot baths to soothe the muscles that are closing around an injury. Ice takes away and decreases the injury, and hot water helps soothe the muscles so we don't create secondary injuries.
Okay.
That's what I think. That's amazing. For me. That's my perspective.
Wow. So yeah, you mentioned that you guys were going to go to Vietnam, and you and your husband are adventure travelers. You've gone all over the world, and you've been to many places. But tell us what was so special about your last trip last year to Nepal.
Nepal, we love to hike, and so first I'll say that in relationship to the back injury, here we are 5 years later, and we are carrying our own packs. Each of us, we didn't get a Sherpa. So after suffering that injury, I've healed to the point where I was able to carry my backpack up the Himalayas.
How heavy is that? They're big, giant backpacks.
Yeah, but not too. I mean, I pack light enough that I could do it. In the middle of it, we were thinking, this is crazy. What if my back goes out?
And you'd be stuck.
But when we reached the summit of the peak, and we didn't do Everest, so I want to say that. But when we reached our summit, I did say to him, I'm feeling fatigued. Can we take a day of rest? And it was a great day of rest. So that's how that was managed. But Nepal was amazing because before we left on the trek, we visited a very special place. It's an orphanage called Amagar, and it was created by one of my teaching colleague's husband, who grew up as an orphan in Nepal, but in a very impoverished situation. He had nothing to his name. He did not receive love growing up, and he was determined to go back and open an orphanage for children that was a home. And so when we decided to go to Nepal, we realized we had to visit his creation, and all the teachers at my school helped fund a big care package of art supplies that we took with us. And we went to this place, Amagar, where children are really, really loved. But when we got there, we couldn't believe how quickly the children scooped us up and just made us feel so welcome. And something stayed with us. We just felt so connected. And when we realized that although we didn't have children years ago and really felt very at peace with our decision, we have more love to give.
Yes.
And we're not done. And so it opened up this window. And it just stayed with us. And we thought, we did this trip, and, still we think about those hours at this orphanage. And, we could have easily left with any of those children, but that's not what they need. They are so happy. They're in a home and they're well looked after. So when we came back, I was thinking, where do you give this love? Because when you give it, it just comes back in an unexpected way. And I was at an art fair in Reseda, and someone said to me, "Oh, do you want to help the foster kids in LA?" And I went back, and they told me about this organization, and I learned about it. It's called CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocate for foster children.
Okay.
It was started by a judge in 1978 in Seattle, where I'm from. Oh. And it was started because he was so tired of having children come through the court system and feel that they didn't have anybody representing their point of view in the judicial system. And it's developed into this beautiful organization. Now, in Los Angeles, there are 30,000 children in the dependency system. Mm-hmm. And the social workers and lawyers for the children are so overworked. For example, the lawyers will have 500 cases each at a time.
Oh my gosh.
That's not 500 kids. There could be multiple siblings at a time. And the social workers have 250, which means that they don't have time to really get to know each of the children. So what a CASA volunteer does is they go through the training. So I love this organization, and I completed the 6-week training.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm being signed in by the court tomorrow.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm really excited. And what happens is once you're sworn in, you're given one case.
Okay.
So your job, or my job, will be to represent that child's point of view and needs, their physical safety, educational safety, and emotional safety in court. So these are children who have already been taken out of the home, and the goal is to reunify them with their families.
Right.
But in that process, it's really important that they have all the needs met. Now, there are only 700 CASA volunteers in Los Angeles for over 30,000 children.
Oh my gosh.
So they prioritize the children who have been physically abused or emotionally abused or sexually abused as the top priority for getting CASA workers. And when you're given a case, what a CASA worker does is they get to know the child's foster family, their teachers, their physicians, their lawyers, their social workers, and they put all the pieces together to figure out what that child needs and is entitled to in the dependency system, and follows through and then goes to court with them every 6 months to help identify if they're receiving all the services that they should and that they're safe and well taken care for.
Wow, that is amazing.
And for anybody who's interested, it's casa.org, casa.org. It's a national organization, but CASA LA desperately needs volunteers.
Oh, that's what I'm going to check that out.
It's really beautiful. And again, it's not about being a foster parent. One of the rules is you cannot introduce the children to your family or even your pets, because it's not about you getting the attachment of them back. It's just about
advocating for them.
Just about advocating and giving to them.
Wow. And somebody that's going to specifically look at their life, their case, their needs.
That's right.
That's a wonderful thing. Thank you for telling us about that. And I'm going to put that in the show notes too, the link to that. And hopefully some listeners will get involved.
Thanks. The training itself is amazing because they really go through all of the various needs of understanding patterns that lead to abuse and neglect. And then also that there's inherent prejudice in the system too, because of people's natural unconscious bias.
Right.
They're aware of it. and they teach about it. And so it's a very complete training that speaks to other things that are happening right now in our current climate. And it's, it's so frustrating that we're so divided as a nation right now. And it's nice to think that, okay, well, let me try to do something
just do
for
your
one
part.
person.
Yes. If everybody does something for one person, it all turns out good.
Yeah.
Well, that leads into, what do you do for yourself in your life to stay of sound mind and body?
Let's see. I have a couple things that I do. One is each year, there'll be a moment. Last year, we were hiking. My husband and I realized that if we got super early and we're in the Himalayas before anyone else, the forest really came alive with birds and their smells. And I locked that memory in, and I said, this is going to be my memory. This is going to be the place I go to when I get stressed or overwhelmed. Oh. Usually it's around being in water, like a lake or ocean, somewhere in solitude in nature. But last year it was in the mountains. So I lock in a memory to go back to in my mind when I'm feeling stressed. Another is learning to rest, learning to stop and lie down and just breathe when I'm overwhelmed. And I guess not lastly, but exercise, but also, this is going to sound silly because it's active, but nothing feels better than getting the work done that's stressing me out.
That's true.
So just do something. Break it into small pieces and know that each day it accumulates. The work accumulates.
Just keep taking steps.
That's right. Just keep it.
Even if you can do one thing.
One thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's true. Instead of thinking of fight the battles instead of the war.
That's right.
Okay, so let's go to our questions and get to know a little bit more about you. What's a favorite sound?
That's easy one. I grew up in Seattle. It's rain. So it's listening to rain, whether it's outside or just that feeling of waking up in the morning and listening to the rain. I love it. I miss it in LA.
Oh, I miss it too. And we all miss it. We need it desperately. And favorite memory?
Favorite memory? My husband and I were camping in Iceland over the solstice. And we were on the most northern coast looking at the Arctic. And during the solstice, the sun doesn't set there. And we realized that what we were watching was that the sun was sinking and then moving across the horizon.
Oh, wow.
And so we decided to stay up all night on this hill and watch it. And as we were watching the sun move across the horizon, lower, then move across and then rise, we realized we could feel that we were where our placement was on this globe, on the earth. And so we started to feel the earth turning in the universe, and it was amazing.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing.
We also took a time lapse of it too, so it helped us relive it over and over again. I'll show you.
Okay, maybe we could share it. Okay, so what's a favorite place? Is that a favorite place too? Then place.
My favorite place is my home.
Oh, that's always wonderful.
Yeah.
You make it your favorite place. It's a
right.
sanctuary.
That it is.
Oh, that's great. And the ultimate question, what's the most woo-woo thing you've ever done?
Okay, so that I have chosen to do is in 1987, there was something called the harmonic convergence.
Oh, I remember that.
And I remember waking up before dawn and meeting with a huge group in a circle and chanting and welcoming in the day.
Oh, really?
And everybody convinced that this was going to set in motion the collective conscious of a more peaceful, wonderful world. Oh, to be 18.
Oh, to be 18. And yes, it who knows what it set into motion, but I guess it
was fun.
It was fun. Well, that sounds wonderful. I was there too. So, Nicola, I cannot tell you how amazing this interview has been and meaningful and, lots of great information you have given us all. I'm going to leave the casa.org in the show notes. So I highly encourage everybody to check that out. And then I also highly encourage everybody to check out the band No Small Children. Is it nosmallchildren.com?
It is nosmallchildren.com, and we are active and always throwing stuff out there. We're writing a ton of new music right now.
Yay.
We have something very exciting that will be announced in January. I can't say what right now, but
I can't wait.
Yep. So it is just such a joy to be working with Lisa and Joanie on this wonderful project.
Well, I can't wait to see you guys play again. And everybody check out their site. And they tour regularly across the U.S., so hopefully they'll come to your town. And thank you again so much, Nicola, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's it for this episode. So what are you doing in your life to foster somebody or to advocate for somebody? I think that's a good question to ask ourselves. If you have a good answer for us, send us an email or a voice memo to podcast@soundmindbodypodcast.com. And thank you for listening. And please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you like the podcast, please give us a review on iTunes. It really helps new listeners to find us. Thank you to our guest, Nicola Berlinsky. And thank you to our producer, Tim Edwards, and the Inbound Podcasting Network. Get in touch. I'm on Instagram at Shishi Melody, on Twitter at Sheila Melody 1, or find us on Facebook. Search for Sound Mind Body Podcast. I'm Sheila Melody. Join us next week as we explore, enlighten, and evolve.